Welcome back to the This Day podcast, where we connect real life, real people, and real stories. Tune in to a brand new episode happening right now. Make sure you click the links in our descriptions to find out more about our sponsors and resources where you can dive in deeper to your faith journey. And now, dive in to today's episode. Well, Erica, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so excited to do this. So excited to hear your story and share all about your journey. So
Yeah.
for those that maybe might not know all that much about you, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what you're about?
Yeah. Let me put myself into a couple sentences. That's always hard to do. But yeah, my name's Erica. I live in Indiana, mom of two kids, wife and writer. And so yeah, I've been writing my whole life and also a Christian. And so writing, momming, working, my faith, all of that sort of combines to make up my life. And I just released my third book. So that's exciting. And I've been talking a lot about that lately.
That's so fun. Okay, so you just released your third book, and this is a very exciting time for you because you're talking about your book. Um, let's kind of dive headfirst into that book.
Yeah.
It's called Freely Sober, Rethinking Alcohol Throughout the Lens of Faith. What Share your journey about writing this book and just the journey that took.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I grew up in a Christian home and, had your typical, suburban person, middle class life, just you wouldn't, from the outside looking in, you would have never guessed that, for 20 years, I kind of had this real struggle with alcohol in my life, this very unhealthy relationship with alcohol. Starting really from when I was about 17 years old, it was really just sort of infused into everything that I did without it ever being apparent to anyone from the outside. Because I think partially alcohol is just integrated into our culture in such a way
Yeah.
that it's hard to tell if anyone has a problem if they're not, sort of falling down in public, which I wasn't. Went to college, young professionalism in Washington, D.C. All the things from the outside looked great. And there were wonderful things about my life. I'm not saying there wasn't, but at the same time, I was always dealing with this internal struggle of feeling like I was really compelled to use alcohol in a very unhealthy, I used the term self-medicating way for many years for all kinds of different reasons. And it sort of came to a head in my 30s when I had two kids. I was married. Sort of the way I used alcohol had transitioned to a different pattern in my life, just being a mom, being home a lot more. But in that change, it actually, became even more apparent that I really needed to deal with this because it just became more and more oppressive in my mind and in my actions, even though still at that point, no one was really saying anything to me. So I got to the point where I really wanted to quit drinking, and it was really hard. And it took me several years to get to the point where I was able to do it. But once I did get there, which was a little over 5 years ago, I really recognized throughout that how few resources and sort of guidebooks or anything there were for Christians that were dealing with this problem. It's almost like we're not really supposed to have this problem. So I guess we kind of ignored it in a lot of ways. So I had found a lot of great stuff in the secular world, a lot of great books, memoirs, programs. But I realized what was missing really was this faith aspect to giving up alcohol and getting sober. And I knew as a writer and I just knew that God was calling me to write a book that was going to be that missing resource or part of a new. There are a few more books out there now, but there
Yeah.
wasn't any when I started, and so I'm really glad to be able to take this story and show what God's done in my life and be able to tell other people, hey, you can find freedom too, and there is hope, and I want to show you how I did it and how you can do it too.
I think that's incredible. And you're right, like it's something that, especially in Christian culture, it's talked about, but not talked about as much of how can you, overcome, what are some good steps to take.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you do a really good job of, truly getting honest about like what you can do. Um, and you're leading the charge in a sense, for a generation.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's very layered. I think people maybe stepping into it don't realize like this isn't just like a, oh, one day you just make a decision and all of a sudden like you're going to be free. There's a lot of mindset that has to go into it, not just mindset in the like, believing you can do it, but mindset and education and understanding how you got to this point. And also, overcoming some of the assumptions and the stereotypes that go along with addiction. It's like once you understand that addiction and the reason your body and mind are continually called back to a substance is not necessarily your fault. It's not because you don't have enough self-discipline or you don't
Yeah.
love God enough. Like there's a lot of lies that people believe about themselves that keep them from getting free from it. And there's a lot of things also within those lies that put up barriers to actually finding the actual tools that will get them out of that. And so the first thing that I talk with people about is just let's talk about what you believe about alcohol and why. The first step is not, okay, how do we stop right now? The first step is like, let's just be compassionate with ourselves and try to understand how we got here. Because there's so much that you uncover when you just start having conversations that you're like, oh, I had no idea. But you
Yeah.
have to be sort of open and willing to have those conversations before you can actually get anywhere where you're going to, step away from drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are somebody that, you don't hold back. Like you've gotten honest with your writing, you've gotten honest with yourself, reminding not just women, but people in general that they have value and that they're important. Um, how has this been just a key point of your mission in your
Mm-hmm.
journey? Just reminding people of their value and worth.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is, again, a stereotype of people that struggle with addiction of having no self-control or being lazy or just this really negative, shameful stereotype. And I really want people to know that, one thing I like to say is just that if you struggle with addiction in any way, however you want to call it, that is really, we are all just trying to get through life. Like we all have brokenness, and this is just one way that we have attempted to overcome that brokenness. It's a faulty attempt, it doesn't work, but everyone else is trying to overcome their brokenness in some other way that may not be as obvious or may not be as considered as shameful. But if this is your thing, you are not any worse off, or you are not any less loved by God than the next person. And so getting rid of the shame that's associated with it, I think is really important. And then also just recognizing that as Christians, like our value is not in what we do. Our salvation is not in our action. We should constantly, we should pursue holiness and we should pursue faithfully what God has for us. But even if we fall short of that, which we always will in some way, shape, or form, that doesn't mean we lose the love or the salvation or the worth that we have as
Yeah.
people made in God's image.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what advice would you give to people who desire to step into a new part of their story, but right now we're just trying to take that first step?
Yeah, I think just being open to what I'm saying is the first thing. Just like
Yeah.
I think the first step is really just to say, if you're a Christian, is just to say, God, like I'm feeling this nudge, or I'm like there's something, kind of poking me about this from the inside, and like
Yeah.
I just want to be open to what you have to say about that. Just not making any promises or having any expectations, but just being open to the promptings that you're feeling, and exploring that where they lead you. If that leads you to find more podcast episodes about this, or to buy my book, or to I have a ton of other podcast interviews that you could look up my name and you could hear more from me there too. But whatever it is, like just take that one little next step and just be open to what God has for you, without fearing what that might require of you at some point. Because if you're not ready, you're not ready. But we have to be open to the possibility, and also remembering that like God provides what we need when we need it, not necessarily before. And that is something I know we hear in the church over and over, like, the story of the Israelites and, the manna. They weren't allowed to collect the manna. They weren't allowed to save it up because God always provided for them the next day when they needed it. And that has been a real comfort and a real a strong word for me when I'm feeling kind of impossible, when I just realize I don't have to have what I need right now. I'll have it when I need it. And that is the case with this as well.
I think you said such a key thing for people that, are looking to try to take that next step, but are just super unsure of where to go next, that, God provides. He provides what we need when we need it. I think that's so true in anything, whether you're struggling with something personally or whether you're just trying to, make it to the next day with maybe it's just a work situation. I think that's so true in all aspects of life.
Yeah. And just, I think knowing that it, yeah, just like any small step that you can take counts. We don't have to make grand gestures to make this work. And that's why I just like to say that first step is just like, oh, could be a 2-word prayer of just help me or guide me or I'm open, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about this for a second because when I was preparing for this podcast, I saw you do so much more than just write books. You are um, really, I like to call it, you're a friend to so many different people. You speak, you do all kinds of different things. So share about everything that you do, um, as much as you want to share about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the life of a freelancer is can be exciting and lots of things going on. I was actually just working on a work. I'm about to do a workshop about freelancing because I am a freelance writing coach as well as doing my own freelancing, and so I think it really fits my personality in that I have several different clients. I work with different nonprofits on a lot of communications teams. So I do freelance writing for nonprofits. And then I also have so like nonprofits that I'm aligned with, which is
Yeah.
like the cool part is like you get to work with people that you actually believe in what they're doing. And so it really is more than a job. Then, second to that is like I do have this writing coaching business where I work with people who want to get their writing published in magazines and newspapers, slash they would like to make money from freelancing and freelance writing. So I
Yeah.
work with them. And so I have sort of these multiple portions of my business and personality. And then with this book, I do some speaking with my books. I have a Substack. And so I'm kind of just one of those people that has a lot of, I'm multi-passionate, as they say.
Yeah.
And so I write about a lot of things. I do a lot of different things. And it's just really fun to be able to sort of recognize here are some of the skills and the gifts that God has given me and how I can use them to create sort of my own business in my own life. I really enjoy working for myself. I don't really want to ever go back to working for someone else at this point.
I love it. I love it. I think there's a lot to be said too for that. To be able to work for yourself, to enjoy what you do, and to feel like, I mean, obviously you feel like you work a day, right? But to have such a passion of doing what you do
Mm-hmm.
is so important. Um, okay, so what is something that you do? We ask this question to everybody that comes on the podcast. What is something that keeps you present, keeps you focused, keeps you going in this current day that we're living in? Because so much comes for our attention. What keeps you present?
Yeah. Oh, definitely my kids, because you kind of have to be present with kids. They need you in the moment. They don't care about your work. They're like, I need lunch right now. So definitely just being with my kids and realizing I can't do it all. Like I am a very proactive, productive person. But sometimes I get to the end of the day, I'm like, I literally can't do all these things. And I just have to set it aside and accept that I'm human. I do have a
Mhm.
hard time accepting those limits sometimes because there is so much I want to do. But family and the kids are definitely number one. But I'm also a big reader, and so I love to read for educational purposes. Like I
Yeah.
don't read a lot of fiction, but I'm really in a mode right now where I want to read the classics. Like I want to read some C.S. Lewis and some of those older pieces of wisdom. I think that do keep you present. where you're like, oh, there's nothing new under the sun, and everything's going to be okay. And I can take this old ancient wisdom and I can apply it to life today. I think that's really helpful in staying present and grounded in all the chaos that happens in the world around us.
Absolutely. Okay, so how can people connect with you? How can people keep up with you and find your
Yeah.
books?
Yeah, so you can find this book at freelysober.com. There's a lot more information on the book on that website, and still currently, if you buy it now and you submit your receipt, you get a bunch of really awesome bonuses. I think they're awesome bonuses for free, which are like a 30-day guide to sobriety, this product called Sober Scripts, which is like any situation you may find yourself in. There's a Bible verse, an action item, and a prayer for you to take from, as well as a private podcast, a 10-episode private podcast that you get. Submit your receipt, you get all that. So I would love to send those things to you. And then on Instagram, you can follow me, Ericka_Anderson. If you Google my name, you'll find me on all the things, all the social media, my Substack, all of that. And I would love to connect with you if anything, jumped out at you where you're like, I need to reach out and share with one person, I'm struggling with this. Like, I get those DMs and I'm happy to get those DMs. So please feel free to make me a safe person that you can share with.
Well, Erica, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sharing your heart, and I'm so excited about what this book is going to do, what it has done, and what it's going to continue to do in people's lives. I think it's just a great conversation starter and a great initiator for people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan.